Hey, this is Michael Lindsay from Vital MX. We're out here at Milestone today riding the 2019 Suzuki RM-Z450. So as we all know, for 2018 was the first time in about 10 years that Suzuki did a visual and kind of more of a massive overhaul to the RM-Z450. That included all new bodywork, subframe, swing arm, and all new chassis, and a few engine updates. So for 2019, we're only looking at a few small updates as they focus on some other projects. For this year, we're looking at they're trying to improve that balance of the bike. So it's down to a shock spring rate change. They've gone a little bit softer. The BFR definitely has a different characteristic that they're still learning about. So they went a little bit softer at the rate to try to level out the bike and improve the overall balance. And they've also changed what they call the valving force. And by that, they don't mean they've changed the valve stack or any of the tuning inside the fork. It's more or less just the actual clicker settings, what they sell off the showroom floor. They've worked on their base setting that they deliver it to the customer with. So recapping a little bit on 2018, the biggest change, of course, was the chassis. They were trying to modernize a little bit with the feel, try to thin it out and just make it a little bit easier to grip and control, that along with all the bodywork, while at the same time keep that quintessential Suzuki turn-in ability that so many people are big fans of. And a lot of that comes from the front-end feel and the overall traction the Suzuki puts down. There was also a little bit of my complaint though last year was the bike had so much front end traction, there was so much lift off the rear end, the bike was a little bit unbalanced. We had worked on the shootout on trying to stiffen the forks, push the forks out more, dent up the shock, and just try to improve that because the Suzuki already turns so well. A lot of guys thought it had so much front end weight that it would oversteer a little bit, climb out of ruts. It was really good in tight little jab corners, but anything with a long rut or more of a long arc, the bike would just turn almost too easy. It would climb out. So for some guys, it wasn't as easy to lay over. So with the shock spring rate change and some of the clicker changes, they've improved that. The rear end definitely sits a little bit more. It sets up in the forks a little bit higher in the stroke. It's still not quite what I wanted. I still ended up pushing the forks all the way out to flush today. Did as much sag as I could at about 155 pounds, even with the lighter shock spring rate. It's a little bit different whining and distance. I still took all the preload off and was only about 105. If I had perfect world, I'd probably aim for more of a 107, 108, just because once again, the Suzuki already turns so good. For me, I don't need that much all the time. So for the guys really looking for all that feel coming into the corner, this bike still has it and more. Power-wise, it's what we're used to from Suzuki. It's more of a mellow hit on a 450. It's a lot of low-end torque though. It comes on a very smooth manner. It's definitely a bike that likes to be short shifted. If you get it really high up in the RPMs, it has kind of an older school 4-stroke feel with some heavy inertia. It doesn't like to be screamed out. It's better when you short shift it. It's got a really smooth transmission, so it's really easy to pull those shifts under heavy torque loads. So keeping it that gear high just kind of helps improve that roll into the corners and helps you able to initiate and keep a longer turning radius. Really the biggest thing that's still kind of iffy for me is the shock. The BFRC didn't gain a big overhaul this year, and I still think setting wise, that's really what it needs to get this bike a little more favorable. The BFR is a very active shock. It works really well on hardpack chatter because it kind of settles back down so quick. It's based off road race technology, and it has this really smooth feel where it settles really well and you have this good compliancy from the rear end, but at the same time, it tends to lift a little bit in the stroke. So unless you're able to stay really heavy under throttle at times, it just kind of tends to climb up out of the stroke and change the balance of the bike. So that's the biggest thing I'm focusing on as I ride it. It's just working on those settings with the rear end and the balance to try to get the squat better. The improvements for 19 are definitely helpful, but I feel like it still could take another step. It's pretty simple. There's the guys that really are drawn to it because of that turning ability. There's just guys that's not their strong suit. Getting into the ruts and getting that feel from the bike isn't something they normally are good at. And there's what the Suzuki is really rewarding. So if you're that guy that's on any other brand and just doesn't feel like you can initiate into the ruts well enough, that you don't have that turning capability, the Suzuki has that. And the nice part with so much of the platform being around for so long with the engine, there's plenty of ways to upgrade the bike. There's a lot of options out there, a lot of carryover parts. So if you're not the biggest fan of the power, there's definitely ways to improve it, but it does have something that no other bike really has, that maximum amount of initial turn-in ability, and that's really what the Suzuki caters to. And if that's what you want, this is the bike you should be getting.